Welcome to the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sarraille. I'm proud to partner with Pendleton Whiskey. Pendleton Whiskey just released its 4th annual We've Got Your 6th limited edition military bottle to honor veterans of the United States Armed Forces. Pendleton Whiskey is also pledged to donate $100,000 of proceeds to support the Bob Woodruff Foundation. The Bob Woodruff Foundation helps create healthy, positive futures for our service members, veterans, and their families. Remember to go to PendletonWhiskey.com and please check out their cocktails page, which provides a Western spin on your classic cocktails. All right, let's get to it. And welcome back to the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sarraille. I am joined by Coach JB Bickerstaff, head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Coach, thank you for joining us, and congrats on the undeniable progress of inheriting a young team with what was 2 back-to-back losing seasons and turning that around, especially finishing 44-38. That's huge.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Happy to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Hey, Coach, first off, we'll get into it, but I have a huge fascination. We in the military don't read books about the military when we're in it. We usually pick up books about leaders in different industries, and one of those is it always seems to be athletics. Mm-hmm. There's just something undeniable about amazing coaches that build these winning cultures. Hopefully, these healthy winning cultures, because just because you have a winning culture does not mean that the actual culture for the players and everyone else is healthy. But I found this article, and just allow me to read this, because this is what made me excited, and I think it speaks volumes to what you're trying to build here. Northeast Ohio loves to imagine itself as a gritty and resilient place. It is a region where, in the words of LeBron James, its most famous native son, nothing is given, everything is earned. It's not that Cleveland's natives will scorn a flashy dunk, but that performing one will not endear you to them quite like getting tangled up with an opponent and forcing a jump ball. The Junkyard Dog chain is a way for the team to lean into the Rust Belt city's self-image, a way to reward the toughness and the scrappiness that many of its fans prize and value. And for a franchise that has struggled to find an identity apart from LeBron James over the past 2 decades, this could be a way to create and reclaim one. The Cavaliers have been one of the NBA's most surprising teams this season, referring to the last season, entering the year with the most projections, expecting them to win between only 25 to 30 games. And of course, you guys came out with 44 wins. Despite being hampered by injuries and slowing down since their hot start, Cleveland still appears to be one of the most promising young teams in the NBA. With Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and Jarrett Allen looking for a trio of future stars, Cleveland's ceiling appears to be higher than terminal towers. The hope is that the team will continue to refine itself, playing a more intentional style that also retains the scrap mentality and intensity that Coach Bickerstaff is rewarding each night with the chain. The Junkyard Dog chain may not ensure this happiness, but it does provide an incentive for it to remain throughout the rest of the season and perhaps beyond. That's a pretty good damn article. How does that make you feel, man?
It's good, and I'm, getting goosebumps, listening to it. It's the first that I've heard of that. I didn't, read the article in advance or anything like that. And it's what we aim for. And, whoever wrote that put it beautifully into words that, as a coaching staff, we sit down for hours upon hours, and then we get on the floor with our guys and the relationships we build with our guys to get them pointed in that direction. And, as we think about who we are, so, you take this job, for me, it's also about, how do we connect with our fan base? And, there's nothing greater than sport to get people together. And when a team can reflect its fan base, I think you create something really, really special. So as we talk about, our core values and what we want our identity to be, we want our identity to be something that our fan base, which is unique, can identify with and feel like they're a part of. And so that's kind of what we aim to do. And that's where all this really, really started from.
So that doesn't fall on deaf ears, that you guys understand you are very much the pride of the city for that young police officer or that, factory worker that gets off work that is looking forward to 6 p.m. and that tip off. You guys completely understand that you represent.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. You know what I mean? Like obviously there are so many things that come with this game, right? And with the sport of basketball. But at the end of the day, we know, how important we can be to our fans. We know you can have an awful day. And, when we tip that ball off, like, we can change people's moods, and we do. You watch when you're, in the building and a crowd, the crowd erupts over, a play, a run, whatever it may be. Like, we understand the impact that we have on others. And that's why we do what we do. It's like, and I'm so proud of our guys because they've been able to buy in to something greater than themselves and sacrifice of themselves to do that. So they understand that, the 3-point shot that Darius Garland makes, can change a kid's day. You know what I mean? Like, he can have a terrible day. Darius goes off for 30 points or whatever, and that young fan who's maybe the first time he ever got to see Darius play, he's going to be impacted for a long, long time because of that. So our guys are extremely mindful of that, and, like, that's the reason why we play the way that we play.
That's huge impact. We talk about impact pretty much on every podcast. Mm-hmm. It's, we often say, and my listeners are probably getting tired of hearing it, is that impact is the greatest currency in life. Mm-hmm. You don't take anything with you when you die,
right?
But those memories stay behind. And for our listeners, I read that, and before we started this podcast, Coach JB said that I don't read articles, and you also said, because we brought up that critics can be pretty nasty, as well as people behind the keyboards who hide behind anonymity. But you just said you guys put on the wall the man in the arena sort of speech from Teddy Roosevelt, that the man in the arena is everything. Disregard the critics. That's huge, and that is hell, we even had that on the walls of our facilities in the military.
Yeah, good. No, it's again, it's understanding your purpose, you know what I mean, and blocking out all the other things that can impact you in a negative way, and understanding the courage that it takes, like, to step on this scene, to be a part of this, to be willing to take the criticism from, those people with Twitter fingers, and just show up every single night, and then be there in the moment and have the courage, to make the play or take the shot. Like, it's not easy, like, people see the glamour behind these guys and, the lifestyle they're able to live. But, to be able to handle those moments and to be able to fail in front of everybody and then come back tomorrow and do it again, that's not an easy thing to do. And that takes, an immense amount of courage from all of these guys.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we're in a state where people will pick apart people that accept risk to do something exceptional. And if they fail, it's almost like they're there to just keep them down.
Right. That's what they're looking for. That's the sad part. Yeah, I agree with you.
When we should, hell, dude, America is one big underdog story.
Right.
In Cleveland is almost like an underdog story. You just love that gritty nature. As they said, that, the Rust Belt city is people that just scrap. So, one of the things is coach is one of the most enduring accolades. A title I hold dear, and it's earned. It's not given. And I know you've got to earn that in front of your guys as well. You've got to build genuine relationships. You got to show that you genuinely care. I know coaching is in your blood, but what does that title mean to you?
It means a lot. It's one of those things, and, I say this time and time again, like, I was extremely fortunate growing up that I never had to look outside my house for a role model, right? A lot of people can't say that. My dad was a basketball coach and my mom was a teacher. So for me, as I was growing up, every single day I got to watch them do for others. And that's how, we were raised. It's like, I would go to class with my mom and I would watch her teach kids, and I would watch, her relationships with those kids left a long lasting impact. And she was able to reach kids that other teachers who just went there for the job weren't able to do, because, she would spend extra time with them and build those relationships that you were talking about with them. And I watched how much more receptive they were, because they actually believed and they genuinely knew that she cared about them and wanted to see them be successful. Yeah. And there's those moments where you see them get it, from a teacher. Yeah, and it's like, you may spend hours and hours and hours with people, and then all of a sudden it clicks. And like, that was one of the things that I remember, watching my mom do, and, her response when they got it, and then the kids' response when they got it, is something that I always remember. And then, obviously, my dad was a longtime coach, but what we learned to do is understand what coaching really is. It's the same as teaching, and every single day, that's how we go about what we do is, we are teaching people, but you have to understand how important your role is also. And, you talked about, the impact being that currency, but like, we have an opportunity to impact people's lives for a long time. Whether you're working with kids or you're working with these guys. And that's the thing, is like, people feel like, we get them at 19 or even, 25 or 30, whatever it means. And people feel like they're done. But there's so much more that we all have to learn, and there's so much more that we can give, that Kevin Love, for example, right? He and I are going to have a relationship for the rest of our lives. And it started when he was 19 years old in Minnesota, when I was there when we drafted him then, and then come full circle, and now we're here together. But like, we won't ever stop talking. And, I think, like, as a coach, you have to understand the impact that you can have, negative or positive, right? Like, some of the worst memories that I have growing up is because I had a coach who was an asshole, and he thought that, he was more important than what legacy that he was going to leave for the kids. And, you learn from those things as well.
You learn from bad leaders as much as you learn from good.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the thing I want to reinforce is that title coach is not just athletics. No. If you are a father or a mother, you are very much a coach. I do want to ask this because, as we do research and we know when LeBron left, the Cavs fell on some hard years. They're rebuilding. So you inherit a team that had back-to-back seasons where they only won 19 games. I think a win percentage, that's about .275. When you take and inherit that situation, in your mind, what is that first step you take?
It's getting the guys to believe, that we can get out of where we are, and then earning their trust, that we can show them the way. And, because like, when you are struggling and when you are losing, the hardest thing to do in our business is to teach people how to win. People don't really understand how difficult winning, in professional sports or anything, whatever you're facing, right? To get a win is extremely difficult. To win consistently is even more difficult. And teaching people how to win in our business, because so much as we grow up is focused on the individual, right? Like, it's all about the kid who's the best player. Yeah. So getting people to understand and buy into something bigger than themselves is the first thing that you have to do.
That's beautiful.
And you've got to earn that, every single day, but it's by your actions, right? It's how you walk every single day. It's how you carry yourself every single day. It's how you communicate every single day. Like, that forms a relationship and a trust that people know that they can depend on you, because you're going to be the same way every single day. If you're riding that emotional roller coaster and, you're up and down, like, people won't be able to depend on you. And that's what our job is. And guys have to know, like, I can count on him every single day.
it's amazing when I've got an amazing job where I get to talk to leaders all the time. And Mel Tucker said something that I believe when it comes to leadership, plagiarism is absolutely allowed. Hell, you read Teddy Roosevelt and then you pull that into your leadership style. But he said, success leaves breadcrumbs. And I love how, you're saying things, a lot of leaders say that their values are baked into every conversation they have. In that vein, I love that you're building the words, this scrap mentality and this intensity, and you guys have adopted, which Lamar Stevens, one of your young players, drove this junkyard dog mentality, which is so funny because my dad always used to use that. He always used to say, "Hey, Sarraille's, my last name is Sarraille. We're not the smartest, but we work the hardest.
Right.
We got to earn everything that we do." So behind this junkyard dog mentality, you've attached 5 core values, and I want to have you hit these briefly. They are details, together, compete, toughness, and one more. Just briefly explain these and why you've chosen these core values behind this junkyard dog mentality.
So, when you take over a job, right? We talk about what is it going to take to be a successful team? You know what I mean? Like, what are the things that every single day you focus on that can translate into a successful team? It's, again, part of bringing in, your fan base and how you find that connectedness to your fan base and what they'll appreciate, as well as, how do you build team? And so, you sit down and you think about it, and those are the 5, that came to, mind after, thinking about it time and time again. And it's like, the details and what we do, and I wish, I had it with me, but like literally go to the dictionary and we'll go through this with our guys, the definition of each of these words.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so like the details definition is, it's all the small things that come together that can create a beautiful piece of art. And like when you watch basketball and when things are done the proper way, like it's a beautiful thing to watch. Yeah. And I'm sure it translates to, everything. Football, basketball, business, whatever it is. But like when you watch all the little things and it creates that beautiful work of art, like you see that on the court. Yeah. And it's not something that just happened by accident. Yeah. It's something that the 5 guys on the floor, made conscious decisions to do things a particular way to get you to that point. And so like, that's one of the things that stood out, the toughness piece of it. It's that grit. It's that, physical force that you can feel. And it's also the mental piece of it. Yes. Like, how do you handle adversity? When things are bad, where do you go? Do you stay in it? Do you fight or do you run? And we try to simplify it to that. Like every situation, those are the 2 choices you have, right? You can fight or run. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like our guys aren't running. And that's kind of the, that's the mentality that we have. At the end of the day, it's competition. And competition isn't always just the final tick on the scoreboard, right? The competition is every single play. There's a battle that has to happen, right? Like, are you going to guard your man? Are you going to fight over a screen? Offensively, are you going to work to get to your spot? Like, there's so many small moments of competition that you need to win in a game in order to be successful. But like, it's a mindset that you have to have. It's like, you have to be willing to compete every single possession. The one more is, it's everything. So we use the term on the floor, like to make an extra pass, we use it one more. Right. But like the one more is something bigger for us. It's one more shot. It's one more rep. It's one more rotation. It's one more effort. Like if you're always willing to give the one more, then you give yourself an opportunity to outwork your opponent, which is, something that we take a ton of pride in. So, trying to put all those things together and every single day, like, we bring it in, like we only use those words. And then, it's pretty like you'll watch and you'll see, and then the guy starts speaking it. And once they start to speak it,
becomes a common language.
Right. And then now we're all on the same page. We're all thinking it. And, you know, it helps you hold true to who you are, you know, and what your identity is. And you're not always searching for something different. Like, you can maintain that focus and stay there. You know, I guess like now may be the time where we can
let's see it. Yeah, we've been waiting for this.
You know, and this is, you know, our Junkyard Dog chain, right? And I think it is recognition of, you know, the guy that had it, you know, that night. And the best part about it is, like, we don't give this to the highest scorer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, we give this to the guy who scrapped the most, and who personified that scrap. And, you know, the last word, and, you know, for us, arguably the most important is together, right? Like, we don't walk the walk as individuals. Every time we walk the walk, we walk it together. And every time we go into a game, like, we go in it together. And what we sold our guys on last year was, you know, at the start of the year, nobody knew what we were going to be, right? Everybody had written us off. We were going back to the lottery. We were, you know, all those things. But our conversation from day one was, we might not be the most talented group on the floor, but what we can control is we can be the best team on the floor. And you watch it and you could see it. Like, we go back and watch film and you just stare at our bench. You don't even have to watch the game. Just stare at our bench. And you could see that bench pulling for the guys on the floor. You know, we play the same position. It didn't matter, right? Like, Kevin Love, you know, 5-time All-Star, world champion, gold medalist, was on that bench, and he was cheering for Evan Mobley, who he arguably could have been, you know, drafted to replace him. But Kevin never took that mindset where it was a negative competition. It was, we are team. And, you know, his sacrifice allowed me to coach this team in a way that if he didn't, it would have made my job more difficult. But that's the togetherness that we're talking about. And that's the only way you can be successful in this thing, is if you all do it together. And, you know, you already have an opponent, right? And you've got to go fight that opponent. If you're fighting yourselves, you never give yourself an opportunity to be successful. And so, like, all those words together, you know, were allowed us, you know, to exceed expectations of others.
Well, Coach, I've got to thank you for your time. I know, you know, talking to people in Cleveland, they said, hey, you know, people are very kind here. They're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, hey, I'm going to interview Coach JB. They speak with affection. I know the people of Cleveland love you and what you're doing. For anyone, a father, a mother, leader of a business, or whatever industry you're in, watch Coach JB and the culture you guys are building. You can learn a lot. And I'm excited to see what you guys do this season and continue the streak that you've built. And again, congratulations to you and all the boys. And we'll be in your corner.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Again, this is the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior. I'm your host, Mike Sarraille. Until next time. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior podcast. Hey, whatever platform you utilize to listen to our podcast, please leave a review. We read all of them. That's how we get better. And lastly, again, thank you to our sponsor, Pendleton Whiskey. We've got your 6. Cheers.